For Ernest and All the White Hats, December 6, 2019, by Anna von Reitz. One of the things I learned a long time ago is that you have to deal with people as individuals, because groupthink leads to injustice and prejudice and bigotry. Just because my husband and I are of royal blood doesn't mean that we are royal skunks. Our ancestors broke from the bloodline snobs a long time ago and have paid with our lives and fortunes for it ever since. And just because I helped Pope Benedict give notice to this employees of their wrongdoing does not mean that I was helping him do any wrongdoing. Benedict was being blackmailed, but he still took action to correct and to help us derail the machine. Read that. I was helping him in his efforts to correct the mess prior to those efforts being sidelined by Francis and the Curia. Remember those 12 archbishops who were killed in a train wreck? Get a clue. Good men have died over this power struggle, many of them Catholic and some Protestants, too. But exposing the rot and miasma within the Church and correcting it is of top priority for everyone on this planet, Catholic and non-Catholic, too. As I explained to Robert David Steele, what appears to have happened is that a single heir was assigned by the various families and he is the owner in the legal sense, whereas, there are numerous trustees operating for 1 the banks and 2 the depositors, plus 3 a cadre of those controlling the bank transfer systems. Add to that mix the complications that arise when you attempt to interface hundreds of different kinds of currencies and money issued by over 200 countries during the past few centuries, and you have a recipe for a perfect storm. And now that you have that recipe, add this one final factor: jurisdiction. Only lawful persons can possess lawful assets. That is, only people having the proper political status can actually possess and hold land, gold, silver, etc. Okay. Got that? What have I and those with me been doing? Encouraging people to correct their falsified political status records so that they can act as lawful persons, state citizens. We have been teaching them how to do that, so that they can inherit and possess the land and receive back all the other actual material assets that rightfully belong to them, instead of standing around with a doodad in their hair and having everything that is theirs stolen from them under false pretenses. And again, the Vatican boys were pushing to incorporate all the government services corporations and trying to operate them as actual governments, and then simply also redefine all the government workers, and eventually all the people in entire countries as purportedly voluntary franchises of these governmental services corporations. By incorporation, they effectively killed these governments and people on paper, reducing them to the level and standing of legal fiction entities. And they were doing this so secretively, with such a high degree of compartmentalization, that nobody saw it. But the end game of all this is that the winners would be those who maintained their status as living people and as unincorporated governments. According to their plan, the Holy See would be left as the only such government on earth. They would then literally possess and own everything of an actual and factual nature, and the rest of us would be disinherited things trapped in the realm of fiction, the proverbial land of Oz. Thus, the mad dream of the Unum Sanctum Trust would finally be realized as one world government under the Bishop of Rome, and the Bishop of Rome would serve Mammon as the head of the so-called secular church. They came very close to succeeding. When we woke up, there were only 6 unincorporated governments of any size left in the world. That number had dwindled down to 3 by the time we managed to bring forward the United States of America unincorporated. The United Nations has been populated by incorporated government services corporations all operating under the old Vichy French UN Corp, so it would appear to represent all the countries on Earth, but would actually be just a bunch of franchises like Dairy Queen franchises under the thumb and forefingers of the UN Corp stockholders, and the principal stockholder with controlling interest would be the Pope. There were very few lawful persons left alive on paper who could inherit the land and other physical assets, and what they were doing by hook or by crook was something similar to the theme of the popular Highlander movies, finding ways to kill off the remaining few. That's why, among other things, the pressure to destroy the governments of North Korea and Iran. And it has all been predicated on commercial fraud and obstruction of trade and illegal banking and securities operations, including commodity rigging and counterfeiting. That is crime. So, for those who want to take pot shots at me for being a royal, remember that it was royals of a different kind who fought and bled to give you all sovereignty in your own right, so that you could stand as men and women and as freeholders in your own country, if you have sense enough to do so. It was my ancestors and my husband's ancestors who gave the world the concept of might for right, and the Magna Carta. And who also championed the novel idea that men could and should learn to govern themselves. Guilty as charged. Let me also remind them that Pope Benedict took action in behalf of the people of this earth despite being black-mailed and having his life threatened. And it was because he put a full stop on the machinery of the secular church that he was ousted as pontiff and replaced by Francis, a man of certain politics. And yes, so long as the Pope was willing to do the right thing by the people of this planet, I was willing to help him. So long as the Pope was moving toward honest reform, I was willing to help him. But warmongers and criminals who think that they have the right to steal from babies what the true God gave them, and those who would dictate the lives of others, and all the miscreants and unrepentant criminals of the world know that the true God is set against them and that I am set, and sent, against them, too. So pay attention to my works and what I am teaching you, because it is for your good and because by our works we are known, and that is the only way that anyone is ever known, including those who claim to be white hats. Help support this work by visiting www.annavonreitz.com and look for the donate button. Links to this article and more can be found in the video description box.